Hey guys, that Ananaji here. Welcome back to another episode of the ExpressJS series. Today we will be adding MongoDB to our API which we built over the last two episodes. If you didn't see those episodes already, then I will link them down in the description and make sure you go and watch them as well. With that said and done, let's start off with this video and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so that we can grow and bring more content to you guys. So before I start with the project, what I'm going to do is create a MongoDB database on the MongoDB Atlas platform. So what I'm going to do is first you have to create an account on MongoDB Atlas. I will leave the link down in the description from where you can create an account. And before you can come to this page, it will ask you to create a organization which you can create just by entering a name and just following the steps. After you have got an organization like that analogy, my one, so you can create a new project and I'm gonna name it YouTube, and you can create the project like that. So after you create the project, it will take you to the project dashboard where you can now create databases. Alright, so I'm gonna build a cluster and create a free cluster, and then I will name the cluster as ExpressJS, and I'm gonna build the cluster. So while it creates the cluster, what I'm gonna do now is go back to VS Code. I am gonna create a new terminal here, and we're gonna install a package called Mongoose. Mongoose gives us an easy API for interacting with the MongoDB server. Now let's add something to our env file, that is the MongoDB credentials for connecting. And first you will have the URI is nothing but a link which leads to your MongoDB server. And then we will have our DB is the database name we're gonna be using. I will call it let's say express.js. Let's add a new endpoint to our endpoints file, and I will call it new user.js, and let's create the endpoint. Let's name it new user, and I am gonna send some data there just to test it. New endpoint. Shit. Yep, there you go. I'm gonna switch my terminals. The app has been reloaded. I'm gonna test it. New endpoint is working. Now I'm gonna add a model to the models folder, and it will be called user model.js. So I will tell you what a model is in a bit, but let's import our dependencies first. Require mongoose, and it will be model and schema user schema new schema. Okay, so new schema takes in a object. So basically it is like a definition of the data structure that will be used in your database for saving the user information. So if I say that it will have a ID, a username, and a password field. Now the MongoDB database will follow this particular structure when it saves any new incoming user data. And to actually implement it into the MongoDB server, we need to convert this schema into a model. So let's call it user model, and I will call the model function here. So model function first parameter takes in a collection name. Collection name is like a SQL table, and then the actual schema which it will use as the data structure for that particular collection. So now I will export it using module.exports. dot user model, export the user model. There you go. So now that this is done, I'm gonna go back to app.js and connect up to our database real quick. So we are gonna do that using the connect function that comes with the Mongoose package. So Mongoose connect. There you go. So let's call in the function. So the first parameter is the URI, which I specified in the env file, and then we have our callback. Okay, so now for the callback I am just gonna do a console.log saying that database has been connected, connected to database, and the URI is gonna be process.env.uri. Now that that is done, and there is an error parameter in here, so if there is error, then throw error and return the whole code, because without the database this is not going to be working at all. So now that the cluster has been created, what I'm going to do is click on connect. That will take me to a page where I can add my IP address. I skipped that part because I don't want to leak my IP address. And you can create a new database user. I'm gonna call it Anony, and I'm gonna give it a password. Anything works. I'm gonna create the database user. So now that the database user has been created, I'm gonna choose a connection method, and here the connection method will, you're gonna select connect using your application, and I'm gonna use Node.js. And now you can copy this URL which is at the bottom. I'm gonna copy that link real quick and go back and paste it over here. I'm gonna change this password later on, not gonna show you guys, so see you in a second. So now I've put my password in there and I have replaced that password. Now I will save this file and I'm gonna resave this file, and this will be running. Okay, and it will ask you to pass some options here which you should do. I am gonna do that real quick. So it will be basically an object, and it will be use unified topology, set it to true, and use new URL parser. Set both of these to true and those errors should be gone. Yeah, there you go. And it's connected to the database now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this new user endpoint, create a new user and save it to this database. So how we are gonna do it is, first you need to import the model to this file, constant require models, and then the user model. Let's import the user model, new user model, and then you need to pass in the parameters which were specified in your model file, that is ID, username and password. So in this user model I am going to change this to a post, and then we are gonna do constant body is gonna be require request dot body, and in the body we will have all our ID, username and password. I'm gonna use Insomnia client for making this request in a bit. But I'm gonna do body.id, username will be body.username, and our password will be body.password. and I forgot to do that. Password. Yeah, there you go. So now this should be working, and I'm gonna store this user model in a constant new user. And now to save it, you will be doing new user dot save. This is a promise, so you should catch it and do console dot error to get any error whatsoever that pops up from this. There's some error in there. Oh yeah, this will be new. This will be user schema instead of user model. Sorry. All right. So it is connected to the database, and this should be working. Let's make a Insomnia client request real quick. Insomnia. Okay, that's up and running now. So I am gonna do new user, and it's saved in here. Okay, so now I have got the Insomnia body in, and so we can make the request right now. So let's do it real quick. I'm gonna send the request, and I forgot to return anything. Make sure you always return something, return a response. Response dot send. Okay, I forgot to do that, so it will always just run this request and never stop it. Now if we go back to our MongoDB here and go to collections, there is a user collection, and there is our new entry. This is the new user entry, and this is the users collection. So as you can see, this will always be the same as our user model file. It will have a ID, username, and a password. So now that the new user is working, on the next episode what we're going to do is we're going to make a new login form using HTML, just HTML, nothing too crazy for the time being. We're going to use HTML CSS to make a new login form and do a sign up and login thing. So that's something for the next video. Let's see you guys in the next one, and I will push this code to GitHub so you can always check it out.